Hey everyone, this is Jim and Joelle from Scratch Farmstead, and today we're going to talk about everything you need to know about owning a family milk cow and the things we wish we knew heading into it.
Alright, so we've had Thimble, our milk cow, for a little over 2 years now, coming on 2.5 years. And so everything that we're going to share today is not, I guess it's mainly just, it's our experience. It's what we've learned, and we tend to do things in a way that work well for our family and are simple, but not necessarily the conventional route. But these are the things that we have learned that work really well for us, and so this isn't necessarily advice or what you should do, but this is our experience and what we've learned and what works well. And so we hope it's helpful for you. So to begin, I think a lot of people get to the family milk cow stage by first maybe having goats and milking goats or something like that. And if that's you, that's awesome. That's probably a better way to do it. But we didn't. We had never had cows. We never had goats. We never had sheep. We've never milked a thing in our life. But the opportunity kind of came across our path. We had some friends that had a dairy family milk cow, and we were getting milk from them actually, and the teenage daughter who was milking and caring for her decided that she was too busy to do it, and she didn't want to do it any longer, and so they were going to get rid of her. And so I just casually mentioned, like, oh, I'd love to have a family milk cow one day, just thinking, at some point a long time down the road in the future. And she's like, well, you should take her. Like, you should think about it. You should buy her. And I came home and I said, Jim, like, this is crazy, but what do you think? And we had a lot of discussions. I tried to, research on the internet everything I could about what it would take to have a family milk cow. And we said yes. We decided to take her. And we really knew very, very little going into it. She showed us how to milk a cow once, and then we were on our own after that. And so really our experience is starting from zero and working our way up, and just, yeah, it's been awesome. We love it. We could never imagine life without having our family milk cow, and she's part of the family now, and it's been really, really fun, and it's just worked so well in our life.
So our farm setup here, we have just a little over 5 acres, and there's a small pole barn on the property that has a stall for animals in it with a door to the outside. So that's really nice to have in the wintertime. Attached to the barn, there is a permanent fence section. It's about roughly a ½ acre of permanent fencing, and that's where we keep them in the wintertime. And then in summers and when grass is growing, we have a back pasture that's maybe like 3.5 to 4 acres, and that's where we let them graze. We have a system where we rotationally graze the cows on that back pasture using electric netting fence. It's really portable and movable, so there's no permanent fence in the back, but we just do setups with that and kind of move the fencing around, move their water around for them throughout the growing season, really. And so that's basically it. During the winter time, then we kind of keep them in that permanent fence section, maybe from like mid-November roughly to May, sometime in May, before the grass starts growing again. And they then have access to the barn some of the time.
We kind of learned, so the first year we didn't give Thimble any barn access until it got like super cold below zero. And we noticed that year that she was her teats would get pretty cracked.
Chapped, yeah.
Yeah, and so this year we've been much more conservative and have opened specifically to our milk cow. Pretty much if it's below like maybe 15-20 degrees, we've let her at night have access to the barn, and that has helped tremendously. We haven't had that issue with the sore cracked teats at all this year.
Yeah, definitely. But they're very hardy. They're very resilient. They have no problem in our northern Illinois winters here, and so so that's a little bit about just our land, our property, our setup. So in terms of what we feed her, like I mentioned, she's just on pasture eating grass. Cows are ruminants, so their natural diet is eating grass and legumes, and she'll go to town on like mulberry branches and leaves and things like that.
Yeah, it's really fun when you move them into a new pasture to see the things that she is like eyeing and runs towards and devours. Yeah.
Yeah. So she gets grass and some different forage around the property, really almost 3 seasons out of the year, from like early May through maybe November, mid-November or so is when we'll take her off pasture and the grass isn't growing anymore and isn't green, and so we'll switch her over to a hay diet then. And so all winter long she's on hay, and we have a neighbor that we actually barter some milk for in exchange for hay, and so that works out perfectly. We get hay all winter long in exchange for them getting milk all year long, and so that's been a great arrangement. So when we got her, the person we got her from was feeding her some grains during milking, but she was otherwise on pasture. And that's how we started doing it, because that's really the only way we
were kind of advised that that's what we should do.
We had heard that that's what you do. You feed them grain, and so we did that. We started getting our organic grain from a local supplier and feeding her grain, just a little bit of grain while we were milking her. And the more we kind of looked into it and just thought of what the cow's natural diet is, we kind of questioned that and thought maybe let's just try her for a period without grain and see what happens. And so we did that. We stopped giving her grains, and the change has actually been really tremendous to see.
Positive.
In a positive way, yeah. Her mood really changed, especially during that milking time. She was very fidgety, very fixated on getting that grain, and she kind of had a temper when you weren't giving her grain and all these sorts of things. And that made milking really hard because she wouldn't stay in one place. She'd be moving. She kicked over the bucket probably
quite a bit at the beginning.
On a weekly basis. We were getting a bucket kicked over of milk, which was hard and frustrating. But once we switched her just to all pasture and all hay and no grain, a lot of that fidgetiness and moving around really just went away, and she is super calm during milking. She has kicked over the bucket.
Yeah, no, it's been
once.
Over a year since she has.
She really just doesn't kick the bucket over anymore.
She's so calm.
And very calm and just very consistent in her mood, and so that's been a really positive change.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into our milking setup then. So we have no special equipment. We have a barn stall that she can go in, and so when it's really cold, I do milk her in the barn. So I just take our halter, tie her up to a pole in the barn, and just milk her right there. I prefer to milk her outside if it's above 15, 20 degrees. That I much prefer to milk her outside. And so, but outside, I just tie her up to a fence post and with the halter, and that's it. And she doesn't move for me. She just stays put. We don't have a stanchion. We don't have anything special equipment. She just so that's it.
And I'm in a Facebook group for holistic family milk cow people, and I see people putting up pictures of their pretty elaborate stanchions that they've built or inherited or whatever on their farm for their cows, and we just tie her up to a fence post.
Yeah, I love it because I don't even I don't need to move her. I just put her halter on, whatever the closest fence post is, that there's not a lot of poop around, tie her up and squat down with the bucket, and we milk. So it's super portable, super movable, and not requiring a lot of special equipment. So that is our setup. As far as milking goes, so this is another thing that I was super concerned about. So we are a young family. Obviously, we have young kids, and so all I had ever heard of was twice a day milking, or even heard of people milking 3 times a day, and I was like, that is a huge commitment, and I don't have time for that. So we do not milk twice a day. We never have. We've only ever milked once a day. we milk in the morning. And so when she has had a calf recently, so like when we got her, she had a calf, and there was a calf that was nursing off of her. And so then when there's a calf that's nursing off of her, we do something called like calf sharing or milk sharing. And so basically at night, if we want to milk, we separate the calf from her. We put them in separate paddocks on our pasture. And then the next morning, I will milk her. After I finish milking her, I will put them together again all day. And then if I want to milk her again the following night, I'll separate them and do the same thing. Calf sharing is awesome because if the calf is drinking consistently and you're like, oh, I'm super busy tomorrow, I don't want to milk, then just leave them together overnight. The calf will drink off of her and you don't have to worry about milking. If you're going on a vacation, awesome. The calf will drink off of her. You don't have to milk, and that's wonderful. So in our experience, the calf has drank from her for about 10 months, roughly. Obviously, every situation is different, and calves will wean themselves at different times. But in our experience, it's roughly been around 10 months, and it kind of slows down there, just as happens as they get older. And so after that point, we continue to just milk her once a day in the morning, but at that point it does kind of become more of a, you got to keep milking her every day if you want to keep her supply up and consistent. And so that's the stage that we're in right now, is milking every morning because the calf is no longer drinking off her, and she's actually currently pregnant to have another calf in 3 or 4 months here. And so that is another thing that we had no idea about, that we've had to learn about, is calving and getting a cow bred, and how does that work. And so the typical schedule that most dairies do is that they have a cow bred once a year. And so they have a calf, and then within 3 months they get them bred again, and they have a calf again, that same time every year is kind of the normal cycle. We haven't done that. So when we got her, she had a calf when we got her, she'd had a calf that spring, and we got her in the fall. And she had not been rebred again or anything. And so after the calf weaned, was in the winter, it was around December, and that's when we clearly could see signs of heat, that she was able to be bred again, signs of heat. And so that's when we had artificial insemination done, which is a whole nother thing that Jim can talk about here in a minute. And we got her bred, and she had a calf then, and then we had that calf, and then that's what we did again. So that calf nursed off of her for about 10 months, and then we got her bred after the calf weaned, and have another calf due. So we are on our second, she should be having her second calf with us. She had one prior to us owning her this May. So that is kind of how that has worked for us, and that's just worked well. Like we do this as a homestead. We don't need calves coming every year necessarily, but it's a really sweet part of the experience. And then you have a calf that you can raise for either meat or milk if it's a heifer. So that's been our experience with that. So we do once a day milking, calving, every 10 months to a year or so we get her bred.
And what's just the daily time commitment of all that?
Yeah, okay, so the daily time commitment. So we milk every day in the morning. So I go out pretty well first thing in the morning. That works well for us. Before our kids are awake, I run out there. It's good to try to keep it pretty consistent. So cows are super routine animals, and they love consistency. And so I try to get out there between 6 and 6:15 a.m. every day. And it takes me about 20 to 30 minutes, would you say, start to finish?
It takes her 20 to 30 minutes start to finish to milk. It takes me closer to an hour. She's very efficient. But
I do it every day, and he does it when I can't, which is not very often. So I would say it takes about 20 to 30 minutes. Probably the main difficult thing being like separating the cows sometime, or here in the winter they're just a little bit more difficult, things like that. The actual milking process really is probably 15 to 20 minutes. It's not that long. And then from there, I bring the milk in and I have to strain it. So we just strain with a dish towel on a strainer to make sure to get off all the particles that might be floating around in the milk that you don't want in there. You strain them off and then wash everything really good and put the milk in we like to put it in the backest part of the fridge or in the freezer for an hour or two, and then get it in the fridge, just making sure it's super cold.
You want it to chill down really fast.
Yeah, so I would say overall, every morning, maybe an hour start to finish at the most is what it takes. And so for me, it's like 6 to 7 a.m. roughly every morning. That's just part of my routine. And honestly, I just love it. Like we have we have 3 young kids, and for me, this is like my quiet rest, like quiet meditation, just really peaceful time. And I'm outside, I'm in nature. That's why, we milk in the barn when we have to, when it's super cold, but I love to do it outside because I just love to start my day that way. It's so calm, it's so peaceful. The sunrises are awesome a lot of days. Like it's just such a sweet way to start my day every morning that I am sad when I can't milk and I miss it. Like, cause I like it. I look forward to it every day. And I feel like Thimble and I, we have a bond, and yeah, she doesn't give nearly as much milk or cream for Jim when he has to milk cause she's just used to what we do.
She withholds from me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then to kind of just talk about the overall cost, what you can expect to pay for having a milk cow. So we got Thimble. She's a
Jersey.
She's a Jersey, and so we paid about $800 for her. She was a couple years old. She was lactating at the time, so that's probably on par with what you can expect to pay.
I guess to go back from the cost, just really quick. Jim just noted there that she was a lactating cow when we got her. So that was a part that I think really helped make our transition so much smoother. We did not have to train a cow to milk. We did not have to train a cow to be halter broken. Like she was already so easy when we got her, and she was used to being milked by hand, which is what we do. So that was really helpful, especially for people that were totally new into this, to have a cow already milking and totally easy.
Yeah, she was breaking us in more than we were breaking her in at the beginning. That's for sure.
And she was super patient with us.
Very patient with us, yeah. Cows have awesome personalities. They're really fun.
They're very sweet,
fun to get to know. But back to cost. So she was $800. That's in the range you can expect. This might be on the lower end. You might see more like $1,000 or $1,200 for a good milk cow.
We didn't do a lot of research into it. That's the price that they told us, and I searched Google a little bit, and I was like, well, it seems fair.
Seemed on par.
Yeah.
So, and then just all the milking pails and buckets and halters and just little odds and ends things.
Yeah. So this is our main equipment here. So a halter. I showed you this is super basic halter. And then, I missed this too, but with milking, so we have 2 milk buckets that we use. We have the big round pail. This is kind of the typical milk bucket. And then we invested in this one afterwards. So this is taller, skinnier milk bucket, and it has a lid. And so at first, I was just milking into this, and it was fine most days. However, when she kicked the bucket, it was a super bummer because then I just lost all the milk and there was nothing I could do about it. Or if the weather was bad, it was raining or snowing or whatever, I'd be like rushing around trying to bring the milk in without it getting, sloshed on while it was spilling over the top, and it was stressful. And so that's when we decided to look up and see if there was anything we could find like this, which we got this one, which is awesome. So then oftentimes what I'll do, now that she's super steady with milking and never kicks the bucket, I just fill this one up and then pour it into here with the lid and bring it inside. But at the beginning, when she was a lot more fidgety and would kick the bucket over quite often, I would milk a little bit, fill a quarter of the bucket, and then I dump it in here so that at least if she kicked the bucket over, I would have milk to take home with me that would be safe and not spilled. And so this has worked really well. It prevents any rain or snow or whatever might want to try to get into your milk for bringing inside, or even just sloshing around when you are carrying it in. So anyways, this 2-bucket system has been perfect for us. We love it.
Yeah. So for all kind of just some of the stuff, accessory things for having a milk cow, probably like $100 to $150 range you can expect to
like
pay
for the
get,
half-gallon ball jars or gallon ball jars or whatever you like to store your milk in.
And that's just to get going with kind of the bare minimum basic stuff, which is really what we prefer. Obviously, there's more. We milk by hand. There's more.
Yeah, you can get milkers and there's all sorts of equipment that you can get.
But we just like doing it by hand. We have one cow. It works well. So, and then. In terms, we don't pay for her feed because we just have the pasture that she eats off of 3/4 of the year. For the winter, the hay, like I mentioned, we have the barter system with our neighbors. Usually for like a small square bale of hay, it's about $5 per bale. So if you're thinking for a winter season, you might pay close to $1,000, maybe $800 to $1,000 for hay for one cow. They'd probably eat about one bale, one of those small square bales a day. And so just depending on where you're at and your hay prices and how long she's not on pasture, that can vary, but figure almost close to $1,000 for hay for the winter. And then is there another cost?
Yeah. So
for the artificial insemination, if you have a bull available, obviously that's
you can go that
free.
route.
But artificial insemination, we've had really good luck just getting in touch with a local dairy farmer, and they typically have the equipment on hand to do artificial insemination. And so that's what we've done both times that we've gotten her bred. That costed us about $50 to do that.
You can go with the vet. It'll be we were quoted at like a couple $100.
Be a couple $100 probably just for their time and a trip out to the farm. So that's artificial insemination. There's other things like you might have to buy a water trough for them or things you might not have on the farm. Sure. But just basic things for a milk cow specifically, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, our cost was super minimal.
Yeah, so if you're new to owning a cow or really any animal like we were, artificial insemination obviously and tracking heat cycles of animals just super new to us. It's always been really obvious when she is in heat, when our cow is in heat.
We didn't really know what to look for, but I was like, she is acting, she's just mooing like crazy, pacing the fence line. It was just very clear that something.
They kind of get this look in their eyes. You can't really miss it.
And if you have another cow with them, they mount each other, you just know that something's going on.
Yeah, and so what you get out of having a family milk cow is we get roughly 1.5 gallons a day. That varies. Some days it's less, some days it's more.
We're not having a cow to get max production. So you can definitely get more than that if you want to. Like Jim said, our cow is 100% on grass. If you give a bunch of grain, if you change their diet, those things are going to impact her supply.
Cows kind of also have a lactation cycle. So right after they calve is generally when they'll give the highest amount of milk, and then they tend to kind of tail off. So
it just kind of levels.
Or level off, yeah. So she levels off usually at about 1.5 gallons a day for us, and that's plenty for us and to share with some friends and neighbors.
And we'll milk her until about 2 months before her calf is due, and then we'll wean her for 2 months and then start milking again.
And that amount of milk is really perfect for us as just our family, our homestead. We make butter, cheese, yogurt,
ice cream,
all sorts.
I mean, that's pretty much weekly. We make about 2.5 gallons worth of mozzarella or cheddar cheese. We do probably about 1 gallon of yogurt. We do ice cream and butter. It's everything and that. So we don't have, it works out well.
Yeah, that's really the perfect amount for us, for our family of 5 right now. Yeah, we don't have to buy any of those products from the store. We have kind of a full dairy supply right here from the farm, and can turn it into a lot of really awesome products.
And it's fun because then you can share with friends and family. You can be generous, and you have all that stuff, and it's really fun.
Yeah, and then the other thing that's great about having a milk cow is because you do have that continual breeding process. So when we got our cow, a calf came with her, and so we raised that cow up as a meat cow, and we had her processed last fall, and we have a couple freezers filled with meat right now, which is great. We have another calf that she had last fall that is also going to be a meat cow this fall. So you kind of just have this continual cycle of meat. If you go that route, you can also raise up another dairy cow, and
we're maybe thinking about doing with this next one.
Yeah, we're thinking about that. You can either keep another dairy cow for yourself, or you can sell them for a decent amount of money, and also
and ideally with doing the artificial insemination. With the first time we did it, it was not a sexed artificial insemination. We happened to get a heifer, but it was not a sexed one, so we could have gotten either with the second one. We got a sexed artificial insemination, which I'm not sure how that works exactly, but hopefully that means there's a high likelihood that we should get a girl, a heifer this time around, and we are thinking about maybe trying to make that cow be another milk cow, but we'll keep you posted.
We'll find out.
Yeah, so that is really our experience with having a family milk cow for a little over 2 years now, and from starting from scratch, having no idea what we are doing, and it's been awesome. We love it. She's a huge part of our world, and what we do, I feel like it does not feel like we are out there milking all the time or require a crazy amount of time or work. It's really just that hour in the morning, really pretty minimal cost, and for us it just gives us so many positive benefits that we love, so it's totally worth it. But we'd love to hear from you. What questions do you have? What do you want to know about having a family milk cow? Feel free to drop them in the comments below. We'd love to answer them and talk to you more. It's just something that we really get excited about, and so we love to talk about it. So yeah, feel free to leave some comments below, and we'd love to hear from you. So thanks so much for stopping by the farmstead today, and we'll see you next time.